Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Out of Your Comfort Zone series. We have a new episode today. I'll be joined by a very special guest, and here she is. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Yasmine. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for making the time to join. Shall
Thank
we
you for
get
having me.
started? Yeah. Shall we get started?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Well, I want to begin by first thanking the audience. Thank you so much for making the time to be here, for your support. In today's episode, we're going to be talking with Yasmine. She's 24 years old and based out of the Minneapolis area. She's mixed culture. Her dad is white, mom is Moroccan, and that was a very important part of shaping her life because growing up, Yasmin would travel back to Morocco quite frequently, and as a result of those travels, she has a much more expanded worldview compared to her peers growing up. And as a result of that, she also has very big dreams of making a difference in the world. She's very
Yes.
passionate. Yeah, she's very passionate about mental health because of her own mental health struggles. She's very passionate about working out and being a source of physical strength to inspire other women like her. She's also very passionate about body positivity and inspiring others to work towards loving and honoring their bodies. She's also very spiritual and hopes to build on her practices as well as help inspire others to do the same. Today, we're going to spend some time talking about the wild ride that has been her life, the ups and downs, and the wisdom that she has been able to amass at such a young age, and the pivotal moments where she decided to change the course of her life by stepping outside of her comfort zone.
Wow, that was an amazing introduction. I'm
Yeah.
impressed. Well done.
Well, thank you. Is there anything that you'd like to add to that, Yasmin?
No, I think that was wonderful. I guess I would just add that I'm super excited to be here with you today. I make a point to step out of my comfort zone on a daily basis. So I
Mm,
think it's really cool that you have this podcast that fully centers around doing just that.
hell yeah. So, why don't we begin by you first sharing the story of how we met and the journey of how you've ended up here today?
Okay, I'm trying to remember how we met. I don't know who followed who.
Mhm.
Do you know?
I don't.
Okay, well, someone followed the other person. I believe, one of us reached out and kind of we had a similar vibe going with like the body positivity and the mental health awareness and just all of that. And we connected and we kind of saw eye to eye. And yeah, you made a really good impression on me. I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but he seems cool. I like his vibe. And I noticed that you had this podcast. And then at some point, you reached out and asked me if I'd want to be on it. And I was like, yes, of course. And here we are today.
Yeah, it's really interesting how two strangers can come into each other's lives, given their openness. And here we are, working on something that will live on long after you and I have left this physical form, and hoping to inspire others for years to come.
Yes, that's the goal.
Fantastic. So, in preparation for today's episode, you and I sort of spent some time getting to know each other. And one of the things, that came up is that you are a self-described shy person, and I definitely picked that up in your vibe. You're, kind of quiet, very zen-like almost. Um, and I, one of the things that I'm really interested in, digging and sharing with the audience is when when you compare sort of the vibe that I have of you, which is that of a shy person, compared to how you put yourself out there on social media, especially because as somebody who really buys into body positivity, you're not shy about portraying your love of your body in different forms, even if it's seductive, sensual, or otherwise, right? Like honoring the strength in many different ways. I guess I'm curious to learn more about that journey. Let's start there, and then we can sort of, you know, get into it.
Yeah. So I am a big fan of social media in some ways. It has some
Mm-hmm.
negatives in there, but I think it's really cool how anyone can start up a social media page and post whatever and honestly inspire a lot of people in a lot of ways that you wouldn't have if you didn't start a page in the first place. So I wanted to do that because I saw other women doing that, and the fitness kind of went hand in hand with that. I found women who were big into weightlifting and developed like a love and an appreciation for their body through doing that. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like I want to try that myself. So I got into doing that, and I saw Instagram as a good tool to use to share what I was doing and to share the journey with loving my body for where it's at and getting stronger and all of that. And so, yeah, that is something that I love to do, but it definitely can be uncomfortable, and you have to really accept the fact that you're sharing a really intimate part of yourself with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't something that came easily to me as someone who's somewhat shy and like reserved. Yeah, I really had to push myself to kind of just be okay with it and do it anyways. And it's a constant challenge for me, like being totally okay posting whatever and sharing my journey of working out and loving my body through Instagram. But it's very rewarding, and I'm glad I started it.
Thank you for that. Are you able to share sort of a story related to a moment where you were going to post a picture of yourself that was not something that you were used to posting, maybe something that was more revealing than what you've posted, and share us a story of that instance and some of the thoughts and potential judgments that came into your mind and how you navigated that.
Yeah, I guess what comes to mind is, so I'm big into working out my lower body and my butt.
Mm,
And it's one thing to like see other women doing that and posting about that and be like, yeah, like that's inspiring. I could do that too. But then it
mm,
comes to you doing it, and you get kind of uncomfortable. And yeah, I don't think I had ever really shared, like, your butt is something that people see as sexual and something that
mm,
there are all these judgments that come with posting that for the world. And so the first time doing that was definitely uncomfortable. And then knowing that, like, my mom follows me and my brother follows me, and
mm,
like I have people in my life that I knew would have some sort of feeling towards that, who would see
mm.
it and kind of like being like, that's okay, I'm still going to do it anyways. So that was probably like 4 or 5 years ago when I first started working out, that I started posting pictures that were showing my butt and like the progress that I had made with weightlifting and such. And yeah, it was uncomfortable. And I really had to get over that, like, this is a sexual picture and like
Hmm.
that's how people are going to see it and that's all this is, and be like, no, like this is me owning and loving my body. And for so long there's been images of women's bodies in the media, but I feel like the thing that's really cool about Instagram is that women can own that and they can be the ones posting their own bodies for their own purposes. And it kind of makes it it just a more like personal and interesting thing to do than seeing images of women in magazines and stuff that they didn't even like choose to put out there. And it's like it's a cooler thing to do, and I've really enjoyed the process, but it's definitely uncomfortable.
Yeah. Um, you hit on something that's very important, I feel, especially for others who are considering taking that bold step to sort of being more transparent about their body and expressing their self-love in that respect is what kind of a reaction did you get from your family, if at all, and how did you navigate it?
Yeah, well, so my mom is Moroccan and she was raised Muslim, and
Hmm.
she just comes from a completely different background than I do, and she was not a fan of me posting stuff like that, and she was definitely vocal about it. Um, and so that was tricky because I love my mom and I look up to her, and I want her to be proud
Hmm.
of what I'm doing. But it was difficult, but it was also an opportunity to kind of like sit down and talk and try to see eye to eye. And I really tried to explain where I was coming from and how I felt that
Hmm.
women's bodies are sexual, yes, but that's not all it is. And like, there's nothing wrong with owning that and being confident and comfortable posting your body online. Um, and she still, I think, has trouble with it, but she respects, where I'm coming from and the fact that I'm a different person and I'm going to do what I want. So that was interesting. And then my brother, I he definitely had some uncomfortability with it as well, but he's also very supportive. I had like cousins who follow me who were very uncomfortable, and I would hear about like gossip amongst them that never
Hmm.
actually was said to my face. But yeah, I just at some point was like, I knew this would be a reaction when I started doing this,
Hmm.
and people are entitled to whatever they want to think, but ultimately, um, I'm going to do what I want and I'm going to do what makes me happy. And I'm big on working on not judging others. So I kind of just hoped that the people in my life, especially people who love me, would work on trying not to judge me as well.
You gave them a test for sure.
Yes, I still do all the time.
That's amazing. That really resonates with me because I'm big into body positivity as well, and I have put my ass, bare ass, out on Instagram, as you can testify,
Yes.
and it took me a long time after the first photo shoot to work up the courage to say, okay, this is going to change my relationship with whoever is, impacted by this in a potentially, negative way. And am I ready for that? I believe that it's important. And obviously, similar to you, I had a conversation with I don't know if it was just my mom or both my parents to say, yo, this is about to happen, and you might hear about it from our extended family. Um,
Warn them a little
um,
bit.
yeah, I did. And, I told them, like, I do not expect you to understand. I completely see from your perspective how this is just so crazy and so out there, but I need you to trust that, like, this is coming from a place of love. And as outrageous as it seems, that it will make a difference because I believe that it will, right? And
Mm.
it took a few months until that first message from a follower, that validated sort of, the act of courage, right? And
Mm.
like putting myself out there. So I feel you, and I appreciate you, sharing that. Let's talk a little bit more about sort of your journey on social media, because one of the other things that you sort of talked about was, um, you know, the journey, the process of putting yourself out there and then not being rewarded with like your follower count blowing up despite how passionate and moved you are by, the stuff that you put out there, and what that's meant for your journey of continuing to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, so I feel like for me especially, but for most people, it's uncomfortable in the first place to put yourself out there. And like you have in any way, on social media or with your art, music, whatever it is that you do. Um, it's one thing to have that, but then to share that with the world is uncomfortable, and you don't really know what type of reaction you're gonna get. And I think it's even trickier when when you're someone who fully believes in yourself and you know what you're doing and you know your purpose, and you know what you're capable of, and you don't necessarily feel like you're getting the reaction that you deserve, or especially with social media, when you're trying to build a following, it takes time and it takes work and patience and this acceptance that you're not going to get the reaction that you feel you deserve right off the bat. And it's something you kind of have to work towards. But in that time where you're working towards it, you have to be okay with not getting that. And so that is uncomfortable. And I think for me, it's been kind of stretched out because I had, a big part of social media is consistency, and that can be really hard to like consistently be posting and be active. And so, yeah, a big part of this for me has been accepting that maybe not as many people are paying attention to what I'm doing or what I'm saying as I would like, and that's okay. I mean, I think a big part of it is realizing that even if there's one person who watches what you do and pays attention to what you're saying, they're impacted by that. And that's a life that you are changing. And that's a big thing for me. It's like, you don't need to have millions of people watching what you're doing in order for you to be having an impact in the world. But that was something that I had to kind of learn along the way. And there's definitely discomfort that comes with putting yourself out there and not knowing what type of feedback you're going to get.
Yes, 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 Yasmine. That is true gold, what you just shared. True, true gold. Thank you for
Thank
saying that.
you.
Because, um, ultimately, the thing that I tell myself is, why are you doing this? Are you doing this for validation from others? Because I mean, and it's okay to for a part of you to feel that way, but is that what's truly driving you? Because when I've had those instances, that's been a call for me to say, well, you need to validate yourself. It's not healthy
Mm,
to try to seek validation from the outside world. My purpose for sharing and putting myself out there on social media really comes down to a few things. It comes down to a record of my life, right? And a reminder for myself of, how far I've come, or the things that I have done and said to remind myself in the moments that I've forgotten or I have gone astray. Secondly, and this is like importance wise, right? So the most important thing is me. This social media thing is for me. So
Mm.
ultimately, what I have to constantly remind myself is if my follower count goes down to zero, that's okay because I am my biggest follower.
Mm. I love that.
The second thing is this expression is my job as a human. Like, as humans, we have been given the gift to create, and our happiness and our joy comes from practicing this gift of creation, period.
Mm.
Irrespective of how the world or other people or our family label that creation as good or not so good. And I think one of the things that I told you, my inspiration for my creativity comes from my, you know, um, she was 4 then, she's older now, 4-year old niece who, for my
Mm-hmm.
birthday, drew this portrait of me that if, she was an adult, I could see her friends saying, oh, this head is not proportionate to the arms. But, she carried herself, with so much joy when she was expressing what this portrait meant. It was the act of creation itself and not the perception that truly matters and that should be driving us, right?
Mm.
And I think you did such a good job of highlighting that. And I think that's so important, especially for people who want to share more of themselves with the world and are trying to, make a name for themselves, right? That ultimately we shouldn't necessarily focus on making that name. We should just try to honor ourselves and honor the act of creation.
Yes, I love that.
Hell yeah. I'm so glad that we're doing this. Thank you, Yasmine.
Thank you.
So, let's move on. Uh, you have led quite um, an extreme life in the sense that in high school, you were in orchestra, a musician, which I kind of want to talk about after we get through this little segment because I'm a musician too, and we never really got to talk about it.
No, we
Um,
didn't.
we did not. Um, and so you were in orchestra as a violinist, and you're this like nerd in high school, shy, reserved, and you've got your, orchestra nerd friends, and you kind of have this like childishness about you. And you talk when you talked about it, you talked about how you play these silly games and um, and then all of a sudden, you decide to dive headfirst, complete 180-degree turn into drugs, sex, and alcohol, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about what was it about that life that you were leading that you weren't content with? What was the draw to the drug, sex, and alcohol that let's start there.
Well, I mean, in high school, you're young, you're kind of lost, you're trying to find yourself. I very much was all of those things, and I I had this life, as a violinist and as a good student and as a child in a lot of ways, still very much playing games and doing little kid things in quotations. But yeah, but I was in this like big high school, inner city high school, and I looked around me and saw a lot of people doing the opposite of that, like partying and doing drugs and having sex and just all these things that were so foreign to me. And I think in an attempt to fit in and to grow up and all these
Mm,
things that I feel like society was kind of pressuring me to want to do, and the pressure was definitely heavier on me than on friends of mine.
mm,
I was like, I'm doing the wrong thing, you know, like I my time to play and do the violin and be good in school is over. That's not what's cool. That's not what I want to be known for. That's not what's going to get me, I suppose, the reaction from people around me that I want. So
mm.
I'm going to just transfer over to the other side and like switch it up and do what they're doing. And so I took that to an extreme and almost switched over overnight, and yeah, just completely changed what I spent my time doing and entered the world of partying and drugs and sex um, after, I mean, from being pretty much a kid before that. So,
Was that a moment of discomfort where, making such a radical shift so fast, was there hesitation? And if so, what did you tell yourself? How did you navigate it? How did you summon the courage to dive headfirst and not look back?
yeah, I think, I think life is all about purpose. And I suppose at
Mm,
that point in my life, my purpose was to reinvent myself. Um, and I had a strong desire to do so. I really wanted to feel like I
mm,
fit in more with the world around me being my high
mm,
school. So, yeah, there was discomfort for sure. I mean, I went from a very protected life where I was
mm,
only with people I love and care about, and was always in safe environments doing safe things, to the
mm,
exact opposite. And it was uncomfortable for sure. And I think, especially because at my core, I'm someone who I don't want to be in danger. Like, I want to do things that are smart and good for me. And um,
mm,
I like to be around people that I love and feel safe with. So it was very foreign to me to do the opposite and to switch to doing the opposite so quickly. But I
mm.
think because I had this sense of purpose to reinvent myself, I just pushed through that discomfort and um, really had to let go of a lot of parts of myself that had been, my strong defining factors. And I just kind of let go
Mm.
of them. And in situations where the old me would have reacted in a maybe smarter, safer way, I just kind of
Mm.
ignored that and went with the new me that I was um, attempting to become.
Yeah, what's safety, right? So, can you help illustrate that part of your life by sharing a story or two so that we can, get a deeper understanding?
Yes, all right. I'll share the two stories that often come to mind because they are memories that I look back on now and I'm like, oh my God, like, how did I end up in that situation and how am I okay? Um,
Mm.
so one of them was I went to a party to meet this guy that I was seeing at the time.
Mm.
Um, Random house, and it was probably 1 a.m. or something, and I'm this little like 17-year-old driving my mom's car.
Mm.
And I get there, and the person I'm supposed to meet isn't there, and I'm all of a sudden in this very safe, I mean, unsafe environment. So, surrounded by guys, high school guys who are drunk and off drugs and who knows what, and in a very rowdy state. I think it was like mostly guys there. I saw very few girls. So
Mm.
that in itself was uncomfortable.
Mm.
And yeah, the situation escalated quickly, and I at one point kind of felt like I was being like lured downstairs and was maybe going to get raped, and like I felt very, very
Wow.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that is a situation where the old me would have been like, you need to leave, you need to go home, like this is not, I knew that that was the right thing to do, but I again was kind of um in this huge attempt to ignore the old me. I was like determined to stay in the situation, and so I did, and I ended up having this really nice guy kind of acknowledge the fact that I was in an unsafe circumstance and help me get out of it. But that could have been a lot worse, and that was a situation that I found myself in often.
Hmm.
And another one that comes to mind is being at another party and deciding to leave with these people, and getting in the car to go, and once we're on the road realizing that the driver of the car was drunk and not in a state to be driving, um, and he eventually crashed into a tree, and that was scary. Very
Hmm.
scary. And yeah, luckily I didn't get hurt, but people in the car did get hurt, and I kind of again was with people I didn't know, and in a place that I didn't know, and dealing with the guys driving not wanting us to call the cops and not wanting us to get anyone involved, and me just kind of having to be like, okay, how do I deal with this situation? Not really being equipped to deal with something like that because I had such a
Hmm.
drastically different past. So again, something that could have been a lot worse, and surprisingly I'm okay, and I'm it's like I don't know how I feel when I think back on those memories. I'm just like so glad that I'm okay. But yeah, I for a long time was in a lot of situations like that.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing that. And when you sort of talk about where you were, um, uh, in high school before you decided to sort of start experimenting and really diving in, and then the world that you entered, and some of these instances and situations that you were finding yourself in. Can you talk a little bit about, um, you know, your mental health? Because I know that that's something that you're very passionate about because you yourself grappled, you had your own mental health struggles, as a lot of us do, as all of us do, I should say.
Mm.
Um, and what was the state of your mental health like in that point of your life?
It was definitely not great. I yeah, I felt very lost. And I think it's, to be one person with these habits and this way of life, and then to kind of
Mm,
like reject all of that. Um, you don't really know who you are. Like I already didn't really know who I was, but then when I let go of all that, even more so I
mm,
didn't know who I was. So, yeah, I when I think of my mental health at that time, I think of like a deep sense of being lost and not knowing who I was, not knowing to how to figure out who I was. And yeah, the anxiety and the depression that comes with that. I mean, it's not a good way to feel. And then when you throw in, dealing with it by doing drugs and being around people that don't care about you, it kind of makes the situation worse. So
yeah.
that was definitely a dark time when it comes to my mental health.
So, thank you for sharing that. Could you talk about, what your life looked like when you hit rock bottom? What did rock bottom look like for you?
Hmm. Yeah, just again, very lost. Didn't really have like something that I did that brought me joy. I don't like, I suppose
Mm,
violin. My we can talk about this more another time, but my experience with violin was tricky. It never really brought me that much joy, but um yeah, I just like really had nothing, no type of outlet. So
Hmm.
not really knowing what to do with myself, and I had let go of a lot of friendships because they didn't align with the new person that I wanted to be. And my mom, being from Morocco and being a decent amount older than me, she's there for me, but at this point in my life, I didn't really feel like I could talk to her about the things that I was doing and experiencing. So feeling very lost and very, very much like I didn't have support. Um, and yeah, it was a dark time. I feel like just a lot of helplessness. Like I'm lost and I know that, but I don't know what to do about it. And I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And that's how I felt for a while in high school.
Hmm. So then, deciding that not accepting the status quo, that situation that you were in, and saying that something can be done, something needs to be done, deciding to seek help. That again, I see that as um, a point of stepping out of your comfort zone to sort of change the circumstances around you. Um, what did that look like for you? What did that journey of trying to dig yourself out, trying to seek help look like?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it started with accepting where I was at, like admitting to myself that I was in a dark place mentally, and
Mm,
that the way I was living my life wasn't serving me and wasn't a good way to go about things long term. So
mhm,
realizing that and accepting it, I think awareness is such an important thing in life. You need to be aware of something for it to be real to you. And so becoming aware of the state that I was in was a big part of it. And then going from there, like, okay, I need help. What am I going to do to seek that? And luckily, I did have resources. I have a family that really loves me and is there for me. And so, despite however they felt about how I was living my life at the time, they were still there for me and they wanted to help me get out of it. So using that, I have a great mom and dad and a brother, and they were there for me throughout that time period. And therapy, honestly, really helped me as well. I found
mm,
my therapist around that time in my life in middle of high school, and yeah, just having people to talk to because I struggle a lot with being in my mind and thinking and overthinking. And it's such a dark tunnel to go down, especially when your thoughts aren't good and aren't healthy. Um, it can just really negatively impact you in all ways when you're thinking and thinking, and that's all you're doing. So, having people to talk to that you trust and that truly want to be there for you and help you and that aren't going to judge you, they're just there to listen and be there for you. That was
mm.
huge for me. And I definitely had that at that time, and that helped me a lot.
Wow, wow. And I guess, so what I heard is, um, you sort of you're very lucky to have a strong family support system, and you sought out therapy, counseling. And, I believe that we all, irrespective of where we are in our mental health journey, need to have a mental health professional. And you know what? I'm gonna be very vulnerable in this moment in time and actually share that when you and I were talking and you kind of shared sort of seeking mental health counseling, um, I realized that I haven't done that in a while, and because of that conversation, I was like, I want to get back on track with that.
Oh,
So
wow.
thank you for sharing that, and that just goes to show how you live your life, even though this was X years ago. Just sharing about it, not even on camera, right, makes a difference in the
Mm.
lives of other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess seeking that mental health and doing that work for yourself. And as part of doing the work, you and I talked about how you are a spiritual person. Spirituality is important to you. Spirituality can mean different things to different people. You have certain practices around your spirituality. Can you talk about how you got started on that and, what some of your rituals around, your spirituality practices look like?
Yes, for sure. So in terms of how I got started, my mom, she has muscular dystrophy, and she has
Mm,
a very bad case of it. So throughout my life, I've seen her be very limited in what she can do, and she's in pain a lot. And
mm,
that's something that wears on you, like not only physically but mentally. And so she actually discovered spirituality, or she's always been spiritual, but she kind of opened her mind to it more so, as a result of that, because she needed something to kind of keep her going.
mm,
And so when in recent years, I think it was like 3 years ago that I really became interested in it. And I had her there to kind of be like, not really, spirituality is such a personal thing. She didn't really say, like, this is what this is what you believe. There you go. But she gave me books that she had that I read, and that kind of opened my mind to it. And she taught me about crystals and meditation, and I went from there and just kind of delved into it because it really spoke to me. Um, and being in the fitness world, I had put so much time and energy into getting a healthy body and being healthy physically, but I feel like I was really missing the mental aspect, which I'm
mm,
super um, hardcore believer that they go hand in hand and you need both. So I think spirituality, in a way, really kind of answered my need for that and gave me a way to um, put the amount of attention that I was putting into my body, into my mind and my soul. And so, yeah, I started to meditate, which is something I still try to do every day. And I think it's all so personal. Like, there's not just one way to meditate. Even going for
mm,
a walk in nature is a form of meditation. Anything that, like, for me, it's anything that clears my mind. Because, like I said, I always have 50 billion different things on my mind. So I like to meditate daily to kind of let go of those thoughts for a little while. And I think that's been super beneficial. Um, and then I have crystals that I'm really big into. Like I have one with me right now. So I
mm,
feel like my room is full of crystals and I just attach a sense of peace and love to the crystals. And so when I have them around me or when I have them with me, they bring that to me. They bring me a sense of peace and calm and love. And in the crazy world that we live in, it can be easy to kind of lose those things and to get caught up and to get lost, which has been a
mm,
theme in my life. So I really like to use those to kind of center myself and get
mm.
back to a state of peace. So yeah, my spirituality is all about like quieting my mind and connecting with the earth and loving myself, and loving life and loving exactly where I'm at.
Yeah, on that note, somebody that I really love and respect essentially talked about how we ourselves, our body, our mind, are deserving of worship as it relates to how we treat ourselves, right? Um, because God, universe, whatever your belief system is, lies within us. And so doing things for yourself and seeing it as an act of self-worship, to really honor everything else that's out there, is something that I'm reminded of in this moment as you share that. And I think that this is a really good place to culminate what has been a wonderful conversation that I feel confident has like touched people's lives in multiple ways. Um, is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience in closing before we sort of say our goodbyes?
I would just want to say thank you for checking this out and listening. I hope you gained something from it, and I hope I have and can continue to inspire you to live your life in a way that really feels good and makes you feel good and um, makes you love yourself and love this journey that is life because I know that it can be really hard to love it at times. It really can be, and I think it's super important to make a constant effort to change that. Um, so yeah, I hope I can inspire you to do that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Yasmine, for showing up and for showing up with such honesty, vulnerability, and thank you to our audience for making the time to join us. Um, I hope that you've gained as much as I have from this episode. And until the next time, love and light, y'all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.